Hey everybody, and welcome back to Hollow Knight! Last time, we beat the entire base game by defeating the source of the infection, Radiance. That, of course, took place after I spent 3 hours showing off this world and how beautifully interconnected it is, and I know for certain now that I didn't even see everything along the way. This time, I do have a couple more stops that I want to make before we truly head on to our main event. I was going to make those stops last time, but I forgot. Don't worry, it's just like 2 stops, literally. We'll be here for 5 seconds. Sorry, not fighting the boss. Screw you. Now that I have every single enemy encountered, not counting all the secret ones, but also most journal entries completed, the hunter should have something for me here. So, you've encountered all of the beasts in this land. Impressive. But one task remains, little squib. Keep hunting down creatures until you have deciphered all of my notes. Only then will I recognize you as my fellow hunter, and you shall receive your reward. Never mind. I was wrong. He won't. Alright, fine. I guess I didn't uncover quite enough enemies, but as I found out on the way here, if you find one of the journal entries that doesn't actually count, and is not actually required for him to consider you to have filled out the whole journal and for you to get the achievement, it will increase the maximum by 1. And that's exactly what happened here with Radiance, the light forgotten. The plague, the infection, the madness that haunts the corpses of Hallownest. The light that screams out from the eyes of this dead kingdom. What is the source? I suppose mere mortals like myself will never understand. Wow, that's the first time I've ever heard yourself admit that you're a mortal. Well, I could go out and kill other things. Hive Guardian. I only need to kill 2 more of those. Malark, 1 more of those. Luke Munga, 2 more of those. 1 more of those. I never actually finished that. Wow. There's 1. Oh my god, there's a thing here this whole time. Another Wanderer's Journal. I didn't even know I could kill you that fast. Saw that in a video. I really wanted to get it, now that I actually know it exists. That is a very, very well hidden secret. There we go. Ah, shit. Never mind. Never mind. Wow. There we are. That should be everything? Okay, Hunter. Not only did I fill out most journal entries, I filled out every single freaking one. Give me. Your journal. Let me see it. Yes. Yes, the hunter's journal is complete. You have proven yourself a true hunter, a master of killing. So with great pleasure, I will give you the reward you deserve. Ready to receive reward? Yes. You're not a boss. Oh, that's so good. I love it. Taken the Hunter's Mark. A mark of honor belonging to a true hunter. The mark will be kept in the Hunter's Journal. Achievement unlocked, True Hunter. So I guess when you see the Dream No More ending, they start putting the achievements up to the side. That is so funny. I love that. I'm so glad that I went and did it now. You have my mark, and you shall be recognized as one of my rare caste. Fellow hunter, I have nothing else to give you. Wow, I'm finally a Bloodborne character. Still can't dream nail you. This goes somewhere. Where does this go? Like, he's just completely motionless. Sitting right there. Not doing anything. Oops, that's not what I meant. I meant to do that.
There's nothing. I assume this just climbs back up into his room? Yes, it does. Alright, well, that's stop number 1, and I'm very glad that I did it. Not what I was expecting at all, but that's just the beauty of this game. You never know what to expect. Oh yeah, I was gonna read the journal entries that I got. Larger and stronger than their brothers, these bugs are still forced to steal their weapons from the remains of other creatures. They do not roam or hunt, forever standing guard and lashing out at anything that wanders near. One of the few creatures that can survive in the rivers of harsh acidic water that flow around us. Where does this water come from? It bubbles and spits with a seething hatred of the living. Oh wait, I didn't even unlock this one. But it considers myself to have completed everything. Okay, fine, I guess I don't have to. Now, what's he gonna say about them? Oh, it's a big slug in the sewers. How did this foolish creature lose its legs? I suppose it's possible to lose anything if you really try. Like their smaller kin, their only instinct is to protect the hive at any cost to themselves. Somewhat clumsy, they'll often damage the structure of the hive when charging at intruders. Does this cause them shame? I do not know whether they have the capacity for such a thing. The mark of a true hunter. I have no offspring, nor subjects, nor worshippers. The sum of my being, my learning, my instincts, I leave it all to you. Good luck, hunter.
Dear, oh dear, what was it? The hunt? The blood? Or the horrible dream?
My second stop was selling my last few artifacts. Relics, whatever you want to call them.
King's idol?
With as many of these as you've delivered, the other relic seekers are like to think I've gone mad for the king. Who am I kidding? They'll only be jealous of my collection. Find me more. I think you may have said that before, but now? Our very last relic. The 3rd arcane egg. Not the 4th, because I missed it. But the 3rd. And that's good enough.
War's son?
A 3rd arcane egg? You're an exceptional explorer to have found so many. An egg is a perfect protective form. In Hallownest, we use stone journals or tablets, our text engraved atop. These eggs are far more secure. Their records are stored within. In fear of damaging the eggs, I'm only able to access the outer layer, but it's clear those in the distant past could somehow access information stored even deeper within. Only I could find a way to do so. Just think of the discoveries to be made.
Helmadelka.
Yeah, they store so many things inside, like their offspring. Before we go, I did want to give one opinion out that I didn't really give last time. While I think that the boss spread around the entire world is overall pretty good, like every area has at least one boss, even if it's just a warrior dream, like Resting Grounds. I mean, there's some areas like Crystal Peak that get Crystal Guardian and Enraged Guardian, and those are not very... those are almost not even bosses. I think it's kind of weird that 2 of the 3 Dreamers have a boss to protect them. Literally the Watcher has Watcher Knights, Monoma the Teacher has Umu. But Hera the Beast has nothing. She's just there. She just says, come on in, kill me. I honestly think Deep Nest could have used a boss in the distant village, like some kind of old Weaver boss. I know that the Weavers are the name of the old tribe. Apparently, actually, the Weavers left Deep Nest and left Hallownest as a whole, but there's still a bunch of spiders there. But yeah, I think a cool big spider boss that isn't Nosk. I know that this place has a boss, but it just has Nosk. It just has Nosk and Galleon or Galen, but it's such a huge area that I thought that there would be more. I think I could have used one more to guard Hera the Beast. It would be especially anticlimactic if that was the last Dreamer I did. I'm actually kind of glad it was the first Dreamer I did, because I think I did them in good difficulty order, where, like, Hera the Beast was probably easiest to access, and then Monoma the Teacher made you fight Umu, and then the Watcher Knights were the hardest boss. I think it was a good order that I did, but it's still so weird that Hera the Beast just doesn't have a boss. When you'd think that, like, every Dreamer would have a boss protecting it. A tough one at that, since it's one of your final goals of the game. I didn't mean to look at this. I know. The Hollow Knight exists. All of that, that's everything I wanted to do. Goodbye, Hallownest. We are in for it. The main event of our video is, of course, the final Pantheon of Godho. The hardest challenge in the entire game, and also the most exhausting. However, I actually learned that there is quite a fun secret in Hall of Gods. And so I want to go there first. Still have we still have 3 slots missing on this Hall of Gods thing. I have beaten most bosses actually in Hall of Gods. Just like the Hollow Knight, there is no slot for Radiance. But as you saw by that last slot in the Hall of Gods little bulletin board or whatever down there, there is this door. Leads to quite a radiant light, wouldn't you say? It's still locked from us, though, which is very interesting since we've clearly beaten Radiance. Anyway, the secret I'm after, I believe it's pretty tough to access. You have to Crystal Heart... Okay. You have to super dash off this wall. And then there's some ledge you can climb right there. It's gonna be very hard for me to do. Oh my god. And there's also a barrier up here that you have to hit with the nail. I did it. I hit it. Let's go. Takes you up to this room. Someone's pounding on this wall over here. Let's help him. He just doesn't know when to give up. It's a statue of Zote, regular Zote, and on the wall are presumably the 57 presets. I mean, what else would those be? If you challenge Zote, there is no difficulty option. It takes you to a special mini-game. Zote the Mighty. This is not his Colosseum battle. Where is it? Well, it may start with his Colosseum battle, but let's see. Hang on. Did you try? Oh, this time he hurts you. I think in the Colosseum he can't actually hurt you at all, even if he hits you. Well. The Eternal Ordeal! So now, you have to fight a bunch of Zote lookalikes and not die to them. And see how many of them you can kill. We got the flying minions from Great Prince Zote. We also have the Great Prince Zote theme going in the background here. There's all sorts of different variations. We'll see if we can see all of them, but this is just so freaking silly. I love it, though. It's just extremely silly. If Great Prince Zote wasn't enough Zote for you, come on over to Grand Ordeal and try this out. This thing is so well hidden that, like, I did not know about it until very, very recently. Oh my god. Okay, watch out for you. The Great Prince Zote's theme is playing in the background, but I can barely hear it over all the Zote grunting. All the Zote noises. I cannot believe what this freaking just random character we encountered occasionally has become. There's a Zote that hangs from the ceiling and shoots fireballs at you. There's the jumping spider form. There's this guy. Basically emulates Great Prince Zote. Oh god. And it's actually getting hard. No. I cannot believe this. I cannot believe this exists. Alright, I believe there is no real end to this, except for if you can defeat 57 of them, you unlock a special menu style. You don't unlock anything else, which is good. It's just a special menu style that, contains that consists of Zote humming the main theme of the game, or so I hear. So yeah, that's the Eternal Ordeal. If you want to play it, go. If you want to try to unlock it, go right ahead. It's there, and it's fun, and it's weird as hell. Now, for what we're really here for. First, let me sit on the bench. Jump over here. Well then, that's a way to introduce yourself. Anyway, you know how I tried to climb up this wall and climb above this? Well, as it turns out, you can do that. You just have to beat the first 4 Pantheons first. And up here is a room. Oh, it's a hot spring. You can refill your health and soul right here. Anything else? Maybe not. There we go. Barely clinged onto the ledge there. It's just to drop back down. And so is that. That requires you to have the Void Heart. So not only do you need to beat the first 4 Pantheons, but you also need to have advanced the base game enough to have the Void Heart. Right here. This is Pantheon of Hallownest. Seek the kingdom's forgotten light. I have said many, many times, so in case you missed all those, I will say it one final time. This is a boss rush for every single boss in the game, including upgraded versions and regular versions in the same fight. I've got some thoughts about that I'll talk about later. There are 3 new bosses that we encounter throughout all this, and all of them are actually just upgraded versions of fights that previously didn't have one. You might be able to guess what those are. I'll straight up tell one of them to you right now. The main reason why I didn't do this before defeating Radiance in the base game is because waiting at the end of this Pantheon is a stronger version of Radiance. And it would make no sense to do the stronger version before the weaker version. If Radiance wasn't in this, which would make no sense since this is every boss in the game, of course Radiance has to be there, then I probably would have done this first and left the end game for the true final video, but nope. Well, unfortunately, I'll have to ruin the climactic moment by going down and equipping more charms, but as usual, I'm going to do one starting run with no bindings, just so I can unlock the new fights. Hopefully I can make it to the stronger Radiance with relative ease. I'm going to put on Strength to start with, just so I can fight the bosses easier. Might also... probably shouldn't do any of those. Grub Song, I think, will be a good replacement for King Soul now that it's gone. You can have Balder Shell. Of course, the thing about Pantheon of Hallownest is that it actually has multiple checkpoints as you go, so you can switch out your charms multiple times. Fury of the Fallen in case it ever gets hairy, and then finally, go with the 3-slot charm like Dream Shield or Lifeblood Core. Sure, we'll go with Lifeblood Core. Go away, Salubra. God, remind me never to buy Salubra's Blessing again. If I had known that it would have been that, I wouldn't have bothered buying it. Here we go. Another thing about Pantheon of Hallownest. Not only does it have every boss, it has every boss's ascended version, but only for terrain differences or mob differences. For example, Vengefly King has 2 fighting you at the same time, which might make this a little more interesting. We'll see. So far, not really. Gruz's mother has spikes in her arena now. It's only like 3 small-ish safe platforms to stand on. Not every boss has arena changes on Ascended mode. So those that don't will just keep their normal arenas. Such as False Knight, who should be up next. Yep. I think this Pantheon generally follows the same order of bosses as the 4 main ones, since it has every single boss from those. And I think, like, the final bosses are spread evenly throughout it, but there are some changes to the orders here and there. Okay, I did not do that right. Oh my god, this guy hasn't been able to do anything. I want to try something with you. Let's see. Not that. Do your regular dash. Do your regular dash. Yes. You can hit him back repeatedly like that. And I think with Quick Slash, you can literally just hit him until he dies. So that's something. I don't think I'm going to be doing it that much. It's kind of dangerous, but it could get me a couple more hits in. So I can make this fight go slightly faster. Strength is really getting me through this really quickly. Hello.
Mischief!
Beyond mischief. We cannot escape thee, even in this highest, most distant of pantheons. O wielder of nail, O eater of soul, are thee a messenger of the gods, or something stranger? We will not defy thee. Continue thy combat. We shall be listening closely. Continue thy combat, O stranger. Continue thy ritual. We shall be listening closely. Okay, just have the same dream nail dialogue every single time. Gorb now has 3 separate platforms instead of one big one. Shouldn't make it too harder, it'll just make the fight last longer, if anything. Making a boss last longer can make them more challenging because it's longer, it's more times to get hit during, but in many cases, it just makes the boss more boring. Just my opinions. And it is kind of interesting. A little bit. He's already on the 3rd stage, but that's just because I'm running Fragile Strength. I'm literally giving myself, like, the most nail damage right now without Fury of the Fallen, that is. What? I think he didn't get to use his, halfway through move where he repeatedly dives underneath the thing. Well, that was weird. Soul Warrior has these guys now. Alright. Won't make it that much harder. Tiso! Nope. Unfortunately, that was spoiled for me. I'm sorry to say. That would have been freaking amazing to encounter, but I just... it happened. These things happen. Brooding Moloch no longer has the raised platform in the center, and I'm not sure how much harder it really makes it. I don't know. Feels like it won't make much of a difference at all. What the hell? Okay. That was weird. Been a while. I hope that I remember how to fight you. Might be a slightly unpopular opinion. I think these guys are the 2nd hardest Pantheon boss. Behind Pure Vessel. Oh, fuck off with that. I hate... Stop it! I hate that. I'm trying to attack you so I could actually end the fight, and you're just like, nope. Oh my god. So that was the first Pantheon, pretty much. Now done with. So let's see. I have no idea what's up next, so I'm just gonna keep running with the same charms. I'll decide on my build and my strategy later on. I'll be getting those lifebloods back, thank you. And I'll be taking some more for my troubles. Holy hell. Okay, that's a lot of lifeblood. Alright. I guess that's what that's partly my reward for clearing all the other Pantheons, filling out all the bindings on the other Pantheons. Zero has floating platforms. Okay. Oh, God. I keep putting myself in the way of those. Oh, Jesus. Well, that took almost all my lifeblood. Jeez. So this is obviously emulating Pantheon of the Artist. Soul Master, you're no problem. I like how Godmaster was turning to look at him for each one of those. I forgot how slow this one was. Jeez. Oh, Blobbles. You guys were a pain and still will be a pain. Maybe, hopefully not. Well, I say that and then I beat them with only taking 2 hits. Oh. Oh, it's just Mantis Lords? Okay, Mantis Lords is included in this. I didn't think it was. Oh, shit. Sisters of Battle. Oh, my God. All three of them attack you at the same time. Ugh. Oh, God. Okay. I'm gonna stop talking for this. Got hit by the spikes. Don't dare. Oh, shit. I should have dead-hearted. Oh, shit. If I had jumped just a second earlier, I would have been okay. God! Oh my God! Oh God. I'm gonna die here, honestly. No, I'm totally gonna die here. Oh, one of them's dead. I think I could do this now. Oh shoot! Oh my God. Please don't kill me. Yes! God damn! Oh my God, that is one of my favorite fights immediately. You get a break room after them. Wow, that's quick. But deserved. Holy hell. I need to practice that because I did so many bad things. Sisters of Battle is one of the Hollow Knight community's favorite bosses, and I can totally see why. Just looking at it, I knew it was going to be so much fun. And yep, it was. Marmu has a much more enclosed arena. I'm not sure. The answer is, it's going to make it much harder. I was about to say, I'm not sure how much harder it's going to be. Answer is a lot. Blue Kamarm has no changes. Broken Vessel. We're still clearing out Pantheon of the dude. Of the artist. Galeon's here. Okay, interesting. This guy was in Pantheon of the Sage, not artist, so... But he's been moved here. Paintmaster Shio! I haven't fought you in a while, but you shouldn't be too bad. Down he goes. Right? No, he's not. Okay. He was staggered. He had 2 different stagger animations. There we go. Oh, he's painting Godmaster. Or Godseeker, sorry. Not Godmaster. Wow, another break room. That was a bunch of easy bosses back to back there. We should not struggle with that in the bindings runs. Sisters of Battle, though, might be our first, like, true obstacle of this. And also the Nail Masters. They're probably gonna kill me more often than anything else. Let's keep going. Five Night! That means the Collector's coming up soon, and I'm scared of him. Yep, Elder Who. No changes. Yay! I'm so happy to see you. No, I'm not. Go die in a hole. Oh my God. So yeah. This guy, as we all know by now, summons in the stronger versions of regular enemies, including Primal Aspids. Fortunately, with the Strength Charm, I can kill them all in one hit. So this won't be bad. I could always run Strength for this during the Bindings runs. Or during the Bindings run. There's only one that I'm allowing myself to use Charms on. And even then, the Primal Aspids will still attack me straight away sometimes, and there's nothing I can do about that. Well, he was very easy there, but with the Bindings on, he could be trouble. A detail about this fight that I never pointed out is that in Godhome, you can actually hear the drums from the Colosseum. The game basically has like a bunch of variations of the God Home boss themes that change slightly for certain bosses, and this boss has like extra drums added in the background to symbolize the Colosseum. Because like the Colosseum was basically just the drums as its soundtrack. That's very cool. Neat attention to detail that I don't think many people will notice, but I did. And I know that there's a number of variants for other themes like for Grimm and for Nightmare King Grimm, who is a boss in this Pantheon, by the way. He is not seen in other Pantheons, but he is now here, in this one. I killed the beast before the Tamer, and I think if you do that, the fight actually just ends. The Tamer just gives up. The Tamer knows that it can't really fight you that well without the beast. Here's Grimm. I will let him bow to me, out of respect. Oh man, he killed him. Oh man. Another break room, man. I'm actually starting to get a little more hopeful for this. I didn't expect there to be this many checkpoint rooms. Break rooms, I mean. They're not checkpoints. But maybe I should hold my tongue. Maybe the Pantheon of the Night era onwards is gonna be hell. Still, I'm glad to have the collector sort of towards the middle. Oh. Sleeping God, we can barely feel thy presence amongst the green left behind. What strength thee once possessed fades beyond time and tune. Such magnificent scale even in decline, if only thee could teach us to grow so large. She's talking about Un, or Un, I don't know how you pronounce it. The god of green path that you find in the back tunnels. I thought we would have an explanation of what it is. I didn't realize it would be this. So, never mind. Un just exists in the world. That's all I know about it. I'm interested to find out more of the lore, though. Sleeping God, to see thee as thou once existed, with land and dream and devotion, we would give our mind. Finally, she has different dream nail dialogue. Jesus. Yeah, I'm honestly wondering too, like, what was Un like? What were the creatures of Green Path like? Was Un just like, let's grow a million plants, and everyone was like, yeah, sure. Watcher Knight's this early! Well, for a fight that I have a surprising amount of trouble with, I'm very glad about that. Watcher Knights was one of the last fights in Pantheon of the Night. So, glad to be seeing it earlier here, because for some reason, I've started struggling with this fight as of late. I'm starting to have a lot of hope for this, honestly. I thought this was going to be hellacious, and it might be. But, like, I know I am killing the bosses extremely fast, and I know that the actual, like, runs that I attempt are going to take a long time, but I expected this to be way worse than it is. I don't know, I still don't know how far I am through. I could just be halfway through, or something. All I know is apparently Grey Prince Zod is one of the last few bosses, which is gonna suck. I'm not excited for that. Umu does not have a floor. Which is gonna make it this boss even more of a pain than it was before. Summoning jellyfish now. Or Umas, as they're officially called. But who cares? Didn't get hit by that somehow. Yes! Yes! Die! God! Still don't really like that fight. You just have to wait for an opening, and that's really boring. Who's ahead? Hornet. So Hornet Sentinel has a wider arena. Just kidding! Winged Nosk. It's not present in the game, but that's its name. I have heard bad things about this fight, and from what I've seen, it's also, yeah, it's not the greatest. Let me see. Bouncing off of it's probably not the best idea. It's basically Vengefly King now, but it occasionally spawns those on the ground, which is something, but oh my god. Can you stop hitting me, please? Let me see. Okay, that's the regular slow healing, and I got a heal in, so I don't think healing is going to be an issue. I need to jump really high. because it has a much bigger hitbox than Vengeful King did. Let me see. Yeah, there are plenty of times to heal during it, and it's just... I think original Nosk was harder so far from what I'm seeing here. Original Nosk was harder, yet I'm pretty sure this boss replaces original Nosk in this Pantheon for whatever reason. Oh, I didn't expect that. Okay, well that's just a different version of the same attack, pretty much. Coating the floor in fireballs. Wow, crazy. Or sorry, infection. It's not actually fireballs. I've only gotten one comment like that. Why do I keep... why do I keep saying like it's getting to me? I can't fall asleep at night anymore because I called the infection fireballs. Oh god. No. I have literally never stopped calling it fireballs since I first saw it. I like that this boss is a Nosk imitating Hornet. But otherwise, yeah. What I'm seeing here is worse than regular Nosk. I don't think it's like the most boring boss in existence. It's not the worst boss, but just kind of boring in comparison, wouldn't you say? Once it's done charging, is the perfect time to... Okay, sometimes it's not the perfect time to heal. Maybe it's best to go to the other side of the arena. Well, down it goes either way. Yeah, that was not... I would have preferred original Nosk. I do like that it's a mimicking Hornet, though. That might be the only reason they even bother making it. Ooh. Do I have your moveset memorized? Missed you twice? Ah. No problem, especially when you have fragile strength on. Bama. Hornet Sentinel! Coming after Sly! Instead of right before him. I wonder why they make some of these order changes that they do. I'd like to know. Maybe they thought Hornet Sentinel was just a more fun fight, so they want to end this leg of the Pantheon with her instead? I can see that. Down she goes. Break room. Now we move on to the Pantheon of the Night. Oh god. Watcher Knights won't be included here, and Pure Vessel is saved until later. Yeah, this is where the upgraded versions are gonna start appearing. And this is also where Markoth is. Oh god, I'm scared. I haven't beaten Markoth's Ascended version, so this could be bad. No Eyes has a much more spiky and thorny arena. Shouldn't be too bad. There is no floor though, so there's no real safe spot to heal, which could end up being a problem. But otherwise, other than that, it shouldn't be that bad. Traitor Lord. If anything kills me, it's gonna be this. It's unfortunate Traitor Lord is so late in this. My guess is that they swapped Watcher Knights for a Grey Prince Zote. White Defender's probably next. Yep. I know how to call him. There you go. I'm saying there you go and down it goes. What else do I say? We're just fighting the same bosses that we've been fighting the whole time. Oh, tragedy. This majestic god evades our attunement with such ease. We live only to serve the gods, to seek them out. Why does she frustrate us? How does she hide from us? Does she diminish herself by choice? O majestic one, we beg thee, reveal thyself. Our mind is so much less without you in it. Well, if you don't want to become a boss in the Godseeker's dreams, all you have to do is bury yourself inside a little hobbit hole in the ground. Hail Mother, we barely dare to think. The chance of meeting is too rare, but thine resonance, could you be one of them? That's referring to the White Lady. Queen of Hallownest. Former Queen of Hallownest. Soul Tyrant. Glad he's this early in the list of the Pantheon of the Night bosses, but he is pretty late inside this one. Fucking hell, what do I do about that? He barely manages to get a hit in because he explodes close enough to me. That's so annoying. Oh god. Oh god. Markoth with no floor. Because his Ascended version has no floor. I don't think I've been over that, because I was not practicing his Ascended version on camera. And it seems like there's even less places to stand in the Pantheon than there is in the practice version. The Hall of Gods version. Could be wrong about that, though. I don't like this boss. Man. We cannot rely on King Soul anymore, but we may not have even relied on it that much in the first place. Please just die, thanks. God, I don't know how I'm gonna be able to do that. Great Prince Zote, knew it. Replacing Watcher Knights. Oh boy. Him being this late in it is gonna be rough. Oh, my nail is strong enough to make those explode in one hit. Then let's not do that, shall we? Down he goes. That might honestly take us to the final leg. Can't say I expected it on this first try. Oh, yep. This is actually the final leg. I didn't even realize. Failed Champion is towards the end, so I know we are nearing the end now. Oh my god. I can't believe I actually did that. What the fuck? I've taken damage from rocks and nothing else. It's funny. I should Dream Nail him, because I no longer have King Soul to give myself free heals. So I should Dream Nail him when he's open like that. If he is in the in that state for too long, he will eventually crawl back into the armor. Which is you could probably guess that's what happens, but yeah, I just wanted to confirm. He does not stay like that forever, so you can't just keep Dream Nailing at him until you're at full soul. Oh. Nightmare King Grim. It's been a while. I hope I still got it. Whoa. Okay. That attack, I think what I did before was I double jumped in the middle there. Yeah, that's the best thing to do for that attack. Whoa. I almost got hit by the fire there. That would have been bad. I do have enough time to heal twice, but I won't be able to heal twice in the final version. But if I'm running high blood here, which I should, then I can just do that. Yeah. Double jump between those. I remember this. I got this. I can beat this guy. No issues. Few issues. Otherwise, none. Bad. He no longer has an edge to his arena, so that's bad. Good thing I dashed there. That was great time dash. I need to never let those slow fire pillars trap me like that. I need to be better about that. I could even dead hard through one of them if I have to. Ow. Shoot! No, not again. That would have killed me. You know, Bindings Run. Crap, that would have killed me. Down he goes. Break Room. I believe there are 2 bosses left, so we might do some charm... So we can do some charm jiggering here if we need to. We can also fill up on lifeblood to help us through these next 2 fights. And I believe it is Pure Vessel and then the stronger Radiance, and that's all, and that's it. So, wish me luck on Pure Vessel. All I really want to do in this run is unlock the final version of Radiance so that I can practice it. I don't really care about beating the Pantheon yet. Even long departed, we feel the afterglow of the god power that sat his throne. It lays heavy upon this kingdom. That lingering power alone was beacon enough to draw us to Hallownest. How bright it must have been to mortal bugs stood before it. Wasn't that bright, I could see just fine. A god so strong yet erased so completely, how could it happen? God King, you reduced your form to match our meager shells, but why shed so majestic a hull? Surely your true immensity could have inspired devotion all the more. That's about the king. That is White Palace stuff in the background. Good thing is, I've got the muscle memory for this guy down. All that matters is my good reaction times. Remember that I will have lifeblood for this fight. That'll help. Probably won't have any for Radiance. Ow. I'll be fine. Honestly, I should beat this. I'd be surprised if I didn't. I have this guy's down, and I have a lot of lifeblood, and I have all of my regular health on top of that. So if I don't beat this, I'd be surprised. And that is it. Absolute Radiance! All of her attacks are faster now. You get the idea. On top of that, her third phase has more to it. I think I'm just going to... I might die deliberately to this so I can practice it. Let me see. Okay. Oh god. She now unleashes that attack twice. Those move much faster. Oh, okay. Thankfully, she does not deal 4 damage per hit. Thank the worm for that. Okay. Whoa, god, that came so fast. I think I have to... Yeah, okay. Cool. Oh god, you always have to be... Fuck, that was bad. Why did I do that? I'm such an idiot. You always have to be ready for the next attack. Just always be ready for a bunch of swords out of the wall. Let me just deal with it. Okay. End of first phase. Ow. I'm totally gonna die, but that's fine. All I wanted to do was unlock this boss before we start any real attempts. Second phase. I do not trust myself with this. Oh my god. Poke a bounce off of her here. We can... Oh god, the wall of light. Get out of the way. Oh, Jesus! That was... You're tough. Wow, okay. Yeah, this is gonna be a real challenge. This is gonna be a huge challenge. I'm going to die next hit. Which way is it coming? This way. Oh, okay. Can get some hits on her here. Get through those, get through this. There's a third one coming. Or is there? No, there isn't. There was just 2. Maybe she only spawns 2 sets in the second phase. First death of Pantheon of Hallownest. I almost made it through the whole thing in one go, which is very surprising. So, why did the game save twice? So here's a brave tip to you. You want to beat these things? Run Fragile Strength. It costs nothing. As you can see, it is still here. It did not break. It will not break if you die. In the Pantheon, you're free to use it however you want. In fact, I'd even say don't bother upgrading these to the unbreakable versions. It costs way too much geo when, like, the vast majority of truly hard fights in this game, aside from regular Radiance, take place in a dream realm where it doesn't matter if you die. So with that, I should have unlocked every single boss in the Hall of Gods. What's this? Oh, it's another way in. I see. Okay, that's interesting. There we go. The beautiful list of bosses in this game. Every single one of them listed right here. And that whole ordeal despite how short it felt, because I was having fun fighting bosses. I mean, these bosses are honestly my favorite bosses I've ever fought in any game. So, of course, that, like, while I'm fighting them, they feel like time flies by, because, like, I just love fighting them so much. So it's natural that it would last shorter than it seemed. That being said, though, I have been recording for almost 2 hours now. That is the first phase of this whole thing. Added a lever to Nosk. I guess we can flip it over to Winged Nosk, since that's the only one we can even fight anymore. Then you. What's your icon? God, this fight was great. I'm excited to fight it again. Nope, that's still closed. Yes, indeed. Radiance. Forgotten God of Light. You mean absolute radiance. Real quick, I'm gonna go into this fight with no charms on attuned difficulty, just so we can see. So this is something weird. Apparently Radiance's intro, Absolute Radiance's intro, plays out in full every single time you fight her, when the original Radiance didn't. So that's interesting. Makes sense for the end of the Pantheon, but for the Hall of Gods, not really sure. Gonna spend a couple attempts on her, but to show off in this video, I want to deal with that attack right away. Ah, crap. Crap. That's a death. With shell binding, that is. Oh my god, I dashed the wrong way! What the hell? Oh god, those came so fast. This is gonna be hard. Oh man. I was just banking on the fact that hopefully my Shadow Dash will be back, and it was. Sorry, Dead Hard. Forgot to say your real name. I'm so sorry. I hate this attack when combined with this, with the platforms. Okay. I wonder again if again it's gonna be about patience. Just like, she's not really anywhere near you. Just don't bother. Bad. At least Falling in the Void only does 1 damage, but still, not ideal. Okay, okay. Jeez. Well, yeah. You see what I'm dealing with there. I think you can understand this thing is gonna take me so long to practice, and I'm probably not going to show it on camera. So, despite the Pantheon feeling pretty short, I have been recording for 2 hours, so it's probably a lot longer than I thought. But the fact that it felt short just goes to show that I had a lot of fun with it. So anyway, I'm going to take a while to practice all the bosses that I think are going to give me a lot of trouble, like Ascended Markoth, and especially Absolute Radiance, and Sisters of Battle. Especially those two. I think if anything, those two are going to give me trouble. Alright guys, I've got some unfortunate news. I really hope I didn't promise to fill out every binding slot on this 5th Pantheon, because that's probably not gonna happen. A couple days ago, I started real attempts at the Pantheon using the Charms binding, which I thought would be the easiest. Turns out, not really. Most of the Pantheon is fine. I had some trouble with the Collector, but once I found out a good strategy for him, I started beating him consistently. Then I get to this asshole. Markov. Turns out, without charms, Ascended Markov kinda sucks. And I don't mean that as in he's a hard boss. I mean, I kinda do, but I think he's a bullshit boss. I actually don't like this boss anymore. There's just never any time to hit him, so the boss is gonna take forever, and his nails that he summons at you are so hard to dodge, and they are sometimes spawn outside the arena so you can't see where they're going. And of course, he can bob around and hit you with his shield and all that stupid crap. And unfortunately, he's one of the last bosses in the Pantheon. I had 2 entire attempts get to him, take so much damage that by the time I killed him, I had like 2 health and no soul. And then I immediately got killed by Grey Prince Zote, who comes right afterwards. 2 attempts ended that way, and that's the farthest I've gotten. I didn't even make it to Radiance. When you consider that every attempt to get back to Markov took like 40 minutes because of how long this Pantheon is. This Pantheon is not my favorite thing in the game, I have to say. So, because I want to get this video out, I want to actually finish this series. I didn't even notice there's a very subtle 3D effect on the stands for these guys. That's very cool. Anyway, I am no longer going to be going after the Charms Binding. I will try the other 3. If any of the other 3 turn out to not be that fun, though, I might have to remove them too. Which means, unfortunately, I'm not going to be getting the special reward for getting every binding slot. But let me tell you this. I have beaten every single boss without charms. I can beat Markov without charms. Markov with his Ascended version with the platforms and no floor. Not the actual Ascended version, because he does 2 damage in that one, but the one in Pantheon of Hallownest. I've beaten him. I have also beaten every single other boss, including Absolute Radiance, without charms, because that's the basic way that I practice them, is that I don't use any charms. So, I know I can do it. I can do the Charms Binding. I just don't have the patience to waste 40 minutes just to get back to this one boss who's just gonna kill me. And it's not like he's gonna become a cakewalk just for me not going after this binding anyway, because even with charms, I think the nail binding still might be a challenge. So yeah, that's the deal. So instead of the Charms Binding, my first shot at this thing is going to be with the Nail Binding only. And then my second and final challenge run is going to be with Shell and Soul. I think that'll be the most, like, a more fun challenge than Cell, Shoal, and especially Charms, and Shell, Soul, and Nail. Because I'm worried that Nail Binding and Soul Binding turn the Ascended Collector into an absolute nightmare, and I don't really want to deal with that. Because Ascended Collector kind of sucks already. He's another little sucky boss, so I'd rather not do that. Because charms are unlocked, I might as well show off the charms I'm bringing. At least for the first leg, I might change these. I'm going to run Strength, because I'm pretty sure that the nail damage still won't be more than the Pure Nail's base damage already. Pure Nail does 21, and the Nail Binding lowers it to 13. This will add like 50% of 13, which just kind of puts it up to about the same as Pure Nail's base damage. So it'll be mostly the same, but it'll take up 3 charm notches, and I can always take it off sometimes. Then I have Shaman Stone to power up my spells, Fury of the Fallen just in case I take too many hits. And then I have Fluke Nest. Turns out that I didn't actually see what this charm's basic function is, so I'm going to run it for a little while, along with Shaman Stone, to try and get an idea of what it does. And maybe show it off in footage, because it's supposed to release a swarm of little black flukes. When I used it before in an earlier Pantheon, though, I had it on at the same time as Defender's Crest, and that changes it into, like, this one big projectile that bursts into a toxic gas thing. But when run by itself, it is actually the swarm of things. So, that is all the setup. Wish me luck. I decided to record my nail binding run without any commentary so that I could comment in post to give my thoughts on each of the bosses as we pass by. Don't worry, it'll be very brief thoughts. Minus a couple. Vengefly King, even with 2 of them, is so boring that I don't think it's really worth talking about. It speaks for itself, so instead, I'll go over what I think about the game's combat in general. I think it is great. Even though it may not be the best thing about the game, just the simplicity of running left and right, jumping and slashing is surprisingly enough to get by, and that's mostly due to the enemy and boss variety. Although I think the bosses are the best form of combat in this game because they're typically the most balanced, and regular enemies could sometimes be a little less balanced, especially with the environments. I still think regular enemies are really good and very varied. They are the main difference between all the areas within the game, and I think without that much variety, the areas would be very samey, aside from their visuals. And I also love the healing system. You attack things to get soul, and then you use that soul to either use a spell or heal. And using a spell will deal more damage to whatever you're fighting, but you can also heal. And I love how quick the healing is. Like, you have to stop moving for a little while, but it's still pretty quick healing, and you could heal 3 times at once if you end up being able to wait long enough. I certainly like this healing system a lot more than having to press a button and have all movement from my character taken away while my character does the most lackadaisical drink animation for 10 seconds. That's about it. I'm done praising the combat, and the Vengefly King fight is still going. That should tell you everything. Gru's mother, or Gru's mother, is surprisingly fun. She only has 2 attacks, and they're extremely simple to avoid, but I find it pretty fun to avoid those attacks, to like dash underneath her little rampage stomp or whatever it is, or even just walk under it normally in the base game since you're not necessarily intended to have dash when fighting. Her regular lunge can be surprisingly hard to avoid, even with abilities. Just goes to show that not every easy boss is boring. I think Gru's mother has a lot of good to her, even if she has very little health to make up for it. I still think, however, that the first real boss is False Knight, because he introduces you to the concept of bosses in this game extremely well. His attacks are all really simple, the telegraphs are long, giving you ample time to find them out, but you are forced to dodge them because attacking his armor doesn't give you any soul. And while it is a little confusing since players were just told that if they hit enemies you get soul, it makes it so they have to dodge his attacks and they can't just heal through the fight, while still giving them plenty of chances to heal because you can gain the soul from the stagger phase and then use it immediately on the rampage attack to heal. And although it's weird that armored enemies that you fight later on do give you soul when this guy doesn't, whatever. Massive Moss Charger is another kind of boring boss. I don't really like... When I found out that you can hit it in the face during its regular dash, that made it a little more fun, but mostly because it lasted less time. I consider this and Vengefly King mini-bosses more than real bosses, and when I think of them as those 2 random mini-boss encounters you can find in the world, I think they're overall good. But as God home bosses, they really don't fit in. They're so much more boring than the rest. Hornet Protector, the Green Path fight. Fantastic boss. This is kind of the get-good boss of the game, like Father Gascoigne and Bloodborne and, I don't know, Margit, something similar from the rest of the Souls games. It's testing you on the knight's most basic moveset, making sure that you're good enough to be able to play through the rest of the game with the dash. It's funny because when you first fight her, she seems like the fastest boss ever because she's the fastest enemy you have to deal with until now, but compared to everything else after her, she's on the slower side. There's so many faster bosses than her, and it's just a funny thing to be reminded that you've come so far when Hornet's first fight seems slower to you now. Whose Gorb is on display here? The answer? Your Gorb. My Gorb. Gorb's Gorb. Gorb, Gorb, Gorb. Dung Defender is an extremely simple boss, but his fight just has this amazing positive energy to it, and it's all because Dung Defender is clearly so happy to be fighting you. He is enjoying the battle so much. You can hear the pure joy in his voice, and that brings such a positive vibe to the fight, and I love it. It's also just a weird fight because, you know, he's attacking you with big balls of crap. Makes sense since you're in the sewers, but still, you would never expect something like this, and especially gets even weirder when you find out he was one of the 5 great Knights of Hallownest. Out of all the bosses that I didn't consider bosses, that I thought of as mini-bosses, Soul Warrior is my favorite. He very much comes close to being a good early game boss, and that's because he kind of is, assuming that you want to count him as a boss. It's just weird that he didn't have a name in Hallownest like the other bosses do. But I guess they changed their mind about them and decided to including him as a boss in Godhome, and that's great, because he's a lot of fun, especially with the extra little enemies to join him in the Ascended version. Tiso should have been a boss, but whatever, it's fine. This game has enough bosses already. Brooding Moloch is great. And it's surprising when I look back and I see that this is like the only boss that I ever really gave up on when it stomped me, because I thought I needed an ability to kill it, but no. I was just playing it bad. I didn't know how to fight it, which is weird, because its attack patterns in retrospect are relatively simple. Like, the fireballs aren't that hard to dodge along with the swipes, and you can very clearly dash underneath the fireball spray right there. I hear that it's actually possible to fight this boss at the very start of the game, and I want to try it because I'm sure it's doable. It's one small note about the ascended version of this fight. It will always jump towards where it spawned, which is where Tiso's corpse is. Every time it does a jump, it will jump back towards Tiso's corpse. Keep that in mind. Nailmaster's Tomato and Tomato are fantastic. There's not a lot of duo bosses in this game, but this game does them really well, and even though these guys felt really challenging at first, it was fun to learn them. It is weird that they're the first new boss of Godhome, assuming that you do the Pantheons in order, because I think they're honestly one of the hardest, and in a Pantheon with such other easy bosses, it's mainly just these guys that give you trouble at the end. But there's like so many little things about this fight that you can learn to make it much easier for yourself, and knowing to jump out of the way of them once you get your first hit on them to avoid their basic swipe is fantastic. Knowing which one is using their respective nail art on you, like if they jump to the other edge of the arena, it's gonna be the dash. If they don't, it's gonna be the cyclone. And yeah, these guys are just great fun. Nothing really more to say. By the way, here's a bonus clip where I managed to take down both of them at the same time with a soul ability. That was pretty fun. Zero was the first warrior dream that I ever fought, and it was a good introduction to them. The warrior dreams all have this theme of them just floating around the room while they summon other weapons to attack for you, and this is a good showcase of how that works. I especially like how not only does he launch the thing, but it goes back to him, so you have to keep in mind like which path it's going to take based on his position relative to the swords, and also relative to yours so you can avoid it. And his attacks get slightly faster in the second phase. Really fun fight. The 3 separated platforms don't really do much to make him harder, it just makes it so you can't attack it as much, which I guess makes it harder, slightly. Crystal Guardian is a good boss, but it barely counts. I think its attacks are very good. The laser that you have to jump over and the lasers that fill the room is a good set of attacks. His leap can screw you, and I'm not a huge fan of it, and otherwise, he has very little health, and the fact that you can't hit him in the head, you can't downstrike him, isn't that hard. I think this guy just barely passes as a boss, but yeah, he's fine. I would have preferred a more climactic fight in Crystal Peak, though. Soul Master is good. I certainly like him a lot more than his Dream Boss version. Teleporting around all over the place is a good progression from the enemies in Soul Sanctum, the dashes are fun to avoid, and also the fake-out second phase is great, especially out in Hallownest, where it's an actual fake-out. Like, you pick up the item and then he suddenly appears, and you have this intense second phase where you have to avoid everything with a dash. It's great. It's one of the more memorable bosses in the game, despite how easy it is. I have never ever died to him, which is kind of weird, because I've heard that other people have had trouble with him. The Oblobbles are good. Although I do think that their fireballs could catch you off guard a little too much, and that the fact that hitting them makes them drop down towards you can be really weird to figure out at first. I think it's a great fight. I'm not a huge fan of the second phase where there's one of them and they enrage and shoot the fireballs really fast, because the fireballs can fly at you so fast you can barely react to them, and hitting it is really freaking hard, and how much faster it moves around especially makes it even harder. It's just kind of annoying, but otherwise, good boss. Unfortunately, the Sisters of Battle aren't going to get much time in the spotlight in this video, since I'd rather not make it too long, so I'll give them a spotlight here. Fantastic fight. The Mantis Lords was already a fantastic fight, but this one, just holy crap. The immense, sense of flow to the combat that there is more present here than in almost any other boss in the game. It would be my favorite if it weren't for the few flaws with Mantis Lords that I already have that aren't really addressed here. When one of the Mantises comes down to do a horizontal attack, they can just hit you right away with their contact damage. I find that really annoying, and they're the one thing that prevents me from calling this boss perfect otherwise. This would be one of my top favorites if it weren't for that, and also the weird random release of tension at the end where when you kill one of them, it just kind of transitions back to regular Mantis Lords. Which, on that note, I could say Mantis Lords was a extremely fun fight, and I must admit that I had seen the Mantis Lords and Sisters of Battle in action before I even started this playthrough, so that's why I had such an easy time with Mantis Lords. I knew what to expect. If I hadn't watched the fight beforehand, I probably would have had a much harder time. I still died though, so you know, didn't have the easiest time in the world. Either way, they are a wonderful boss, and I can see why so many people like them and why so many people love Sisters of Battle. Marmu, I've grown to like less and less. I do like the fact that it's kind of a reaction time game where you have to hit her out of the way, but I don't know, I feel like she just gets a few cheap shots in, and the fact that she can like bound back at you at Mach speed makes no sense, and her teleport just kind of delays the fight and doesn't add that much challenge to it unless she decides to come at you at 100 miles an hour. Yeah, I'm not a big fan anymore. Fluke Marm. A lot of people hate this boss, and I can kind of see where they're coming from. It sits in the middle, doesn't do anything but spawn enemies. I could totally see why bosses that do like 1 or 2 attacks are not everyone's cup of tea, but I'm okay with it. The place where the enemies come out from are telegraphed, and unless you have a weak nail, they die in 1 hit. I have not fought this boss without a strong nail, so I do not know what it is like with the old nail. It's kind of a damage check boss in that way, where I hear if you don't have a very strong nail, then it can get really annoying, so I might try it in a future playthrough like that to see how annoying it gets. Also, I took a freaking ton of damage there. What the hell? Unlike the rest of the Hollow Knight community, though, I am okay with Fluke Marm's existence. Broken Vessel. This boss kind of caught me off guard with how fast it moved and also how little health it had, because I look at the design of the thing and I expect this really like slow-paced boss that crawls along on the ground and attacks you with very slow, deliberate movements, but can still be slightly difficult. But then it started jumping around and dashing around at insane speeds and caught me off guard. The big fireball attack can sometimes leave you with tiny amounts of time to react to the fireballs, but it's not like it's that hard, because it does not have a lot of health, and I beat it first try out in Hallownest. Galleon, or Galeon, or however the hell you say his name, is one of my favorite warrior dreams, because his whole shtick with summoning that sight that bounces along and has to take momentum, has to build up momentum to come back to you, makes a very interesting projectile to dodge, and his ability to add in 2 more just makes it even better. I think the Dead Hard makes this fight a lot more fair than it was otherwise when I didn't have it and I went through Deep Nest without Dead Hard. But with Dead Hard, it becomes one of the best warrior dreams in my opinion. I really like him. Paintmaster Shio is a fun boss. And I like that he fights very differently from the Nailmaster since he's using a paintbrush as opposed to a nail. I especially like how his upwards ground pound attack with the red splotches works differently. You can't really be right next to him waiting for a nail because the red blob is going to hit you. His nail art move isn't really like the Great Slash though. I kind of would have liked to see something like it, like him painting a big slash in the arena that eventually falls to the ground, but the purple blob attack works as well, and I think this fight is really fun, if a lot easier than the other guys. Hive Knight is such a fun boss, and I'm so glad that it was added, because hearing that the Hive didn't have a fight originally baffles me, because like it's this big special area and it doesn't have a boss at the end? Come on! So I'm very glad that they added one. All his attacks are extremely fast and extremely fun to avoid. I especially love the surprise slash where he teleports away and then appears behind you. That is always just so much fun to dodge out of the way of, and dealing with his hivelings as well that he spawns in. This fight just is really fast, fun, and enjoyable. I've heard a lot of people say that he's forgettable, but I highly disagree. Maybe it's just because he was added in after the game came out and most of the people who enjoyed the game back then had already played it and just didn't really feel like doing a big playthroughs again, but since I played for the first time after that update came out, I got to fight him and thought he was awesome. Doesn't have a lot of health though, but that didn't stop me from dying to him 3 times. Elder Who. Fun boss. I like his attacks of finding the correct space to stand in and then going in. I feel like sometimes they could be a little too hard to avoid without Dead Hard. Then you get Dead Hard, and now you could just literally Dead Hard every single time you attack, every single time he attacks, and avoid it every time. He kind of becomes a more pathetic boss with that, but fighting him without Dead Hard can be fun, even if he can hit you unfairly sometimes. His little cascade move though, that's how I've heard it called as anyway, is annoying because he just straight up disappears for an extended period of time. Not a huge fan of that, but otherwise, fun boss. I have really started to like the Collector less and less because I've been discovering that it's way too dependent on your nail damage. Now, you do need a lot of upgrades, like you need Isma's Tear to be able to fight Collector, and you need to have gone to Queen's Garden, so by then you probably should have a lot of nail upgrades. But still, if you don't kill the enemies in one hit, this fight goes from pretty easy to freaking insanely difficult. And his Ascended version just makes things even harder. Like, if you don't bring strength, this fight has a consistent strategy where you can store up soul in the first phase, and then once he starts throwing 3 jars, you spam soul every single time, and that should eventually kill him, along with all the other enemies every time, but I don't know. The Ascended enemies, just primal aspids? Like, come on, that's a little over the top, and fighting him with all bindings, don't even get me started. His regular version is nuts. I don't want to know what his Ascended version is like. Actually, I know what his Ascended version is like. Not fun. This is a boss that has a little bit too much RNG dependent on it, and it's also a little too dependent on your nail damage. I'm not a huge fan of it anymore as a result. I did like it when I first fought it, but now, I don't know. God Tamer, another great duo boss, and a good way to end the Colosseum trials. Although, as it turns out, the Beast actually has less health than the Tamer, which is kinda backwards to me, and because you can end the fight by just killing the Beast, you can literally just downstrike the Beast over and over until he dies. You occasionally have to dodge out of the way the Tamer's attacks, but it's a lot easier of a fight than I initially thought. Would have been good to know a little earlier when I was doing Pantheon of the Sage, and this is one of the bosses I had to practice. But yeah, otherwise, I really like the duo bosses in this game, and this one is no exception, especially because the Tamer doesn't really have that strong of an attack. She just jumps and attacks, and that's it. The real challenge is the Beast, and I think the Beast provides a lot of challenge. I especially like how he targets you when he bounces off the wall. I don't know, just something about that is kind of fun to avoid. Troop Master Grimm is one of the best bosses in this game, and although I don't think he's as good as his upgraded version, I think it's just more of a teaser for the upgraded version, it is freaking great. Because both him and his upgraded version is an example of one of the most fair and balanced bosses in the whole game. I'll talk a little more about why I love this fight when we get to the stronger version, since that's where I think the real meat is. For now, let me point out a small detail. In Grimm's skitter animation, you can briefly see that he actually has 4 legs instead of just 2, like he appears. But what's more is that Nightmare King Grimm's skitter animation shows that he has 6 legs. Pretty interesting. Just makes me wonder what's the deal with Nightmare King Grimm even more. Like, what is he supposed to be? Again, the lore of the DLCs is not really as interesting to me as the lore of Hallownest, but lore of the Grimm Troop is at least more interesting to me than Godhome. Watcher Knights. Another extremely fun boss and an example of a great duo fight, which I didn't even mention. Mantis Lords was basically the introduction to duo fights, and it did a fantastic job. I certainly like it a lot more than a certain pair of gargoyles from a certain other game. Anyway, Watcher Knights. Just them rolling around all over the place and taking melee swipes at you and bouncing around as well. They're fun. I think they can sometimes lead to some unfair hits, like when they bounce off of the walls. They don't always bounce off of the walls. Sometimes they stop right before, and sometimes they bounce an extra distance, and that's weird, and that leads to some unfair hits. And also, if you don't have Dead Hard, and one of them decides to roll and the other decides to bounce, good luck. Dead Hard is almost necessary for this fight to be easily no damaged, but obviously in Godhome, you'll have Dead Hard by then. And if you don't, you should. And I also like the fact that you just slowly kill like 6 of them. How you kill one and then another one comes back up and you keep doing it until there's no flies left on the ceiling. It's a good concept for a boss, and it was well executed. Umu. I like the Hallownest version because Quirrell just makes it vulnerable for you, but having to hit the jellyfish into Umu is not too terribly bad when you know that you should just wait for a good opening, but when you know you should just wait for a good opening, that makes Umu extremely boring, because now you just have to dodge attacks that can sometimes hit you in ways that are slightly unfair to me. Like, I've had the chase attack hit me in a few questionable ways sometimes, and the burst attack is near impossible to avoid, but if you can manage to line up 2 jellyfish, it goes down quickly. If you can't, he takes forever. It's freaking weird. All I gotta say is I'd rather fight a Metroid. Winged Nosk. So much potential here, but yeah, instead of just keeping in the superior original version, they replaced it with this objectively inferior fight that isn't even harder. Yeah, it's just Vengefly King with Nosk abilities, and while I consider it better than Vengefly King, especially timing out those descending darks gave me something to do during the fight, there's a bunch of weird things like how the hitbox for it is so tall that you have to, like, double jump or do an extremely high single jump, which, once you get that down, isn't that bad, but... And all the other attacks, it just becomes waiting around for it to launch so you can actually hit it, just like Vengefly King. Really boring, and I really wish that they didn't replace original Nosk, or that they could have reworked this fight somehow, because I do like that it's a Nosk mimicking Hornet. And to be honest, that's probably the only reason why they even made the boss. But, man, it just kinda sucks. While we're on the note, Nosk's Ascended version, which is only fightable in Hall of Gods, has no platform in the center, so no guaranteed safe spots to heal. You have to be on guard from this boss at all times. One slightly, sort of unfair thing that this fight can do is stop in the middle to launch the infection at you. And the reason why it's unfair is because he could go straight from running to stopping right away, and if you're chasing after him then to get a hit on him, that means that you end up just getting hit unavoidably due to contact damage. A little annoying, but he will only ever do that when he goes towards the center of the arena, so once you know that, you can just hit him when he's not going towards the center of the arena, and it becomes fine. Either way, I think this boss is extremely fast-paced, despite, like, not actually being that fast-paced. It feels fast-paced, mostly due to the background music. It was a great surprise to find a deep nest. And yeah, just a fantastic boss, and I really wish that we could have fought this guy instead of Winged Nosk. Great Nail Sage Sly, or as some call him, Yoda. I guess he has similarities, I haven't watched the original Star Wars trilogy. Is a amazing and fun fight. I think another person has explained something about this fight that I didn't even realize. You're both trying to bait attacks from each other so that you can punish them. For example, during the triple swipe, or the double swipe that Sly does across the ground, he will only go into the spin if you're close to him horizontally, and he will only sometimes swipe upwards after doing the sky crash ground pound attack. And in that way, he's kind of like baiting you to come towards him so that he can catch you off guard with an attack. And you're doing the same. You are deliberately standing close to him so that you can get him to do the spin attack and get him to hit afterwards. Of course, since he's AI and he will always do the same things, once you actually get that pattern down, it's you doing all the baiting instead of him, but still. It is a cool thing to realize, and it's a fun fight. I like how he doesn't have that much health since he's so small and he's hard to hit and he has extremely high range on that nail, but I think he's a fully fair fight. I think his second phase is a little weird, and I feel like there should be more of a window than that tiny thing you get after he does the spin. I hear that you can hit him, be a little more aggressive, and hit him while he's dashing around, but I don't really trust myself enough to do that. It's still fun, though. Hornet Sentinel is one of the best bosses in this entire game. Her Kingdom's Edge fight, to be specific. I love it so much. She's insanely fast, and she has a new attack that fills the arena with hazards that you can, while trying to avoid her own attacks, while keeping in mind where they are and not crashing into them too much. It's just amazing. I can't really explain it more than that, but yeah, it's especially noticeable how far you've come since Hornet Protector that this one is so much faster than Hornet Protector, and Hornet Protector is so slow by comparison. I think my one quibble with this fight is that I've had a few rare instances where Hornet is able to just suddenly launch the AoE attack, whatever you call that, and I'm not a huge fan of that, but most of the time she has a good tell for it, and she has a good signifier for it, and I don't mind. Amazing boss. Enraged Guardian is just Crystal Guardian, except he deals 2 damage and launches the laser slightly faster. I think him dealing 2 damage could cause it to be a pretty big issue with the shell binding, but otherwise, it's not that bad. Honestly, I would have taken this as a second phase to Crystal Guardian. Although, I do understand why Enraged Guardian is a separate fight. Some people could struggle with him, and I also like how Crystal Guardian jumps up into the ceiling, and then once you have double jump, you go back there, and now he's mad, and defeating him rewards you with Master Charge. Still nothing that crazy, though, and I wish he at least had one more attack. I'm gonna surprise you. I actually like Lost Skin. Even the jump attack, I feel like I've gotten slightly better at avoiding, and my main problem now is going to attack an infected balloon while he's charging up a dash. That basically gets me hit, but that's all my fault. And if you have Dead Hard, you can react to his jump fast enough. That's if you have Dead Hard, though, and if you choose to fight him right after defeating Broken Vessel and obtaining the double jump, he's gonna be a freaking challenge. But yeah, I actually like him a lot. He is not one of my least favorite bosses in this game. I do still think that the jump attack is a little annoying and can catch you off guard too much, because it is basically confirmed that when he jumps, he sometimes heads for your position and sometimes just goes to a random other spot in the arena. So avoiding it is somewhat random chance, and I think it takes a little too much brain power to figure out where he's going to land. But otherwise, this fight is great, and I have had no problems with it ever since I've entered Godhome. No Eyes. I actually enjoyed a lot more than I was expecting, because with a boss that just launches a bunch of these other big annoying projectiles at you and requires you and constantly teleports away from you, I was expecting it to be a lot more annoying, but surprisingly, not really. You get a lot of time to heal, and the projectiles aren't that hard to avoid in retrospect, and she also, especially in her Ascended arena, it feels like she's never that far away from you. She also just doesn't have a lot of health, so you can easily take her out with the Pure Nail. Trader Lord is fun, and I'm gonna give you a fun fact about this guy. In older versions of Hollow Knight, when the game first came out, before the Lifeblood update to be specific, this guy could only ever use his dash and then the jump dive. The same as the regular Mantis Trader, so he was basically just a big Mantis Trader that had more health. But now they've given him the special Shockwave that makes you have to Dead Hard through it, as well as the projectile attack if you're too far away from him. And they've also buffed most of his attacks to deal 2 damage instead. Contact damage and the projectile attack still only do 1. But yeah, previously, the dash and the jump dive only did 1 damage, so they've buffed him a lot. I think he's really fun. He can be surprisingly difficult with Shell Binding because he can just end you in 2 quick hits. Avoiding this boss can be pretty intense, and I think he's a worthy foe now. I was a little skeptical when I heard that Dung Defender had an upgraded version, but White Defender is actually extremely fun and very fair. I especially like the addition of the 2 Shockwave attacks. The short-range one is very easy to just avoid. You can just back up and you'll avoid it almost every time, because I think it blows you slightly away from him. And then when he goes into the big swarm of, like, jumping around and then diving into the ground for the big Shockwave attack, you can either Dead Hard or double jump over it. And recently I've discovered a bunch of new openings where after he jumps out of the ground, you can stand close to him and get a hit in. For a fun fact about this boss before we move on. Every time he's going to bounce around the room in a ball and then do the big Shockwave attack, he will throw 3 balls of dung, whereas he usually only throws 2. So if you see him throw a 3rd ball, you know to expect the big, like, bounce around and ball attack. I don't know what you would call that. Soul Tyrant is probably my least favorite dream boss. There's 3 in particular, aside from White Defender, Lost Kin, Failed Champion, and Soul Tyrant. And he's probably my least favorite because he just lasts a long time, and that's all because he teleports around so quick that you can barely ever hit him. His second phase is a lot more fun, but it has the consequence of sometimes just hitting you for some reason. Like, no matter how quick I dodge out of the way, he sometimes still gets a hit in, and I don't understand why. The phase is great otherwise, but yeah, I don't really understand why I get hit here sometimes. It's not one of my favorite bosses, and I honestly prefer the original, which is not exactly the case for the other 2. Margoth. I guess I could say some positive things about this fight. The projectiles are interesting. I do like that they home in on you and then they pick a path and then go. Him being circled by a shield could be an opportunity for some, like, interesting timed hits, but it ends up just being frustrating because it can change rotation. Yeah, I'm just going back into negative territory, I know. He's fun when he has a floor. Yeah, I've got nothing. Honestly, his Ascended version might be my least favorite boss in the game, not counting Vengefly King. Grey Prince Zote is just fun. Not just the concept behind it, but how you're basically fighting Zote's ego and also the fan fiction representation of what someone else thinks of him, imagines he could be. but also just the fact that he stumbles around all over the place. He's very inelegant and clearly shouldn't be this good at fighting, yet he's one of the hardest bosses in the game. And his attacks come out really fast. They're all mostly easily avoidable, I think with a few exceptions. And they're extremely fun to avoid. I've not ever done a no damage run of this fight, and I don't think I ever will, because there are a few attacks that I feel like are at least stepping on the line of unavoidable, but like, when I figured out that you can avoid the nail dash by just dashing over him, that became a lot more fun to avoid, because there's something so fun about that simple movement. His minions, however, when you can't kill them in one hit, are a huge freaking pain, and I'm not a terribly big fan of them. Otherwise, though, amazing fight. Although, I don't think I'm ever going to beat it 10 times. Luckily, you don't need to progress the side plot. Failed Champion has really grown on me a lot over times. I wasn't a huge fan of him at first, but now I really like him a lot. There are very consistent and doable movements that you can do to consistently avoid his attacks, and you can also dead hard through them, which I don't... No, I did have dead hard when I fought him for the first time, because I fought him all the way in episode 22. He was like the last dream boss I've ever fought. Although I do think that the rocks can cause a little bit of RNG crap, but that's the only real thing. Otherwise, I really like the fast pace of this fight, and I think that it's cool how they managed to turn the first boss of the game into an extremely formidable foe, especially because even this guy doesn't give you soul for hitting the armor. Nightmare King Grim is barely not my favorite boss in this game. Out of all DLCs, I think the Grim Troop is my favorite, and the main reason is this freaking fight. This fight was probably the hardest for me, although I don't think it's the hardest boss in the game. It took me the longest to kill. It took me like an entire 2-hour recording session to kill. I'm amazed I even did it in the same session. I was about to give up. And I managed to beat him with like the sharpened nail and very few charms because I had done it on a new file. It's as I alluded to before. This fight is 100% fair. Every time you take a hit, it is always your fault, and that is amazing. And it's as some people have pointed out, both the Grim fights feel kind of like a dance. Like, he appears, he doesn't attack, and you avoid it, but you can also get a hit in most of the time anyway. With the spike floor, you really kind of can't, but... And if you do something wrong and you get hit, you kind of lose the rhythm, and that could cause you to screw up a little more as the fight goes on. And when they put it that way, it makes a lot of sense. And it's part of the reason why the fight flows so well. And it's just an amazing and mysterious end to the Grim Troop, because, like, once you beat him, the tent just disappears and the ritual is supposedly complete, but you have no idea what it is, and that makes you so intrigued on what the hell the friggin' Grim Troop is and what they're doing. And the music that plays during the fight in Hallownest, freaking A tier. Maybe not S. I kind of prefer Sealed Vessel, but... As good as he is, though, he is only barely beaten by Pure Vessel. Love this fight. I think this is honestly a masterpiece of bosses. He has so many attacks that come at you insanely quickly and demand fast reaction time, and that's what makes it so good, because you feel like an absolute pro for dodging them. His triple slash kind of is on the edge of being barely unreactable, especially in a few cases, like if he does it right after a dive bomb spire attack, that can be a little annoying. And if you don't dead hard through his projectiles, that is easily his worst attack because there's randomness to it, but you should dead hard through his projectiles. Every other one of his attacks is hard enough to avoid, that having that attack be the main one that kills you is just... You should just cross it off your list. But just every attack of this fight comes out so quick, and you have to respond really quickly. Like, when I was practicing, I didn't even know if I was capable of dodging the drop ground pound spire attack. But no, the pattern eventually came to me, especially because the spires kind of emanate from Pure Vessel himself whenever he does it, so there's a consistent space that you can go to away from him, a consistent distance you can go to away from him, that usually guarantees your safety. The focus attack I'm not a huge fan of, but it is a nice distraction attack to force you to keep an eye on him during it to make sure he won't surprise you with like a triple slash from behind or a wave of projectiles from in front. And the Void Tendrils is just something else that has a slightly different timing for everything else to potentially screw you up. Sometimes I feel like the triple slash can come out too fast, but otherwise this fight is so freaking good. Pure Vessel is my favorite boss in the entire game, and perhaps my favorite boss in any game I have ever played. Love this fight. But of course, Pure Vessel isn't the end. Absolute Radiance is the hardest boss in the entire game. And I am very, very surprised to be saying that. Because I've encountered so many other bosses that I was like, how much harder could it possibly get? And here you go. Absolute Radiance. It's just regular Radiance, but the attacks come out so quick and can layer over each other to the point where some stuff can feel like it's undodgeable. But in reality, good positioning, or so I hear, is what gets you through this fight. I don't really know if I had good positioning, but yeah. I do really, really like this fight, though. I think it's great. Just all these projectiles coming after you, the spikes changing position every time. That being said, her beam burst comes out a little faster than I'd like, although I think it does slow down slightly in the second phase on the platforms. It's still not quite enough. The first phase is damn near perfect. I love it. Even if some stuff like sword walls can still be a huge pain, she never layers a sword wall with like a beam burst or a sword burst, and that's very good. Her second phase, I think, has the potential to be annoying because I think it's a little luck reliant. Her beam burst becomes an absolute nightmare because you could be busy dodging an attack when she decides to use it, and the beam may be crossing over your exact position, in which case you have like a half a second to get out of the way before it hits you. And the fact that she can use beam or sword burst at all when she teleports somewhere means that you have barely any time to hit her due to the expanded size of the arena. The orbs can also be really tricky to avoid when that's your biggest window to attack her. And yeah, so many things can go wrong during this phase that I feel like it's a little reliant on luck. I've had some runs go really well on this phase, some and other runs not so much. The run you're seeing right now is one of the ones that went surprisingly well. What makes this boss even worse is the fact that healing is kind of luck-based, because you can heal after she's done with a sword burst or a beam burst, but if she's decided to spawn a sword wall since then, you kinda can't anymore. Double that with the fact that this phase lasts easily the longest because you have the fewest chances of actually hitting her. And yeah, this phase is a freaking nightmare. The climbing phase, then. That beam launches so fast. I almost always get hit by it at least once, especially when you get towards the top and her attacks are more accurate and the space that the platforms give you is much more constrained. And when you get to the top, the fight's not done, unlike original Radiance. You still have to go through one final phase where she can only use orbs and she teleports around 3 different spots. This is probably the most consistent phase, and the good strategy is to just go bounce on her head and watch where the orbs are spawning, don't get hit by them like an idiot, like I was here. And just a small note, when she's down to the last hit, you must finish her off with the nail. Soul attacks will not work. Which is okay, because I think that's the most satisfying way to finish her off anyway. Just a crazy, crazy fight. It is mostly fair. I think there's a couple bits of RNG that can be a little on the unfair side, but holy crap. Achievement unlocked, Embrace the Void, by the way. Your guess is as good as mine as to what that ending was about. I don't really understand the lore of Godhome, because it just doesn't interest me that much. I guess, though, the infection is still gone somehow, and the Hollow Knight got released? That's cool, we don't have to kill him at least, but is he still dangerous? I don't know. Anyway, that was the nail-binding run, and that was also my thoughts on every single boss in this game. But of course, we're not quite done yet. there's the medal that they don't show you after you beat Pantheon of Hallownest because they're too preoccupied with the ending. Now that I've beaten Pantheon of Hallownest once, I'm gonna have a little intermission where I go around and complete some bits and bobs, and I'll start off by giving my thoughts on Pantheon of Hallownest overall. Many people were apparently disappointed in Godmaster because not only was there little to no exploration added, in Godhome anyway, but there's a lot of lore to it that's locked behind this, Pantheon of Hallownest. As you just saw the ending there. You cannot get that ending without completing this, and this is probably like the most brutal challenge in the whole game. And although I didn't have much trouble with it, I know not everyone is going to have that easy of a time with it, and not everyone is going to like it that much, especially when you consider the fact that it is very long. For my 2 cents on Pantheon of Hallownest, I will agree with others that it is overall the weakest part of the game, but the idea they have here is very sound. Having a boss rush of every boss in the game, especially when they're this good, is a great idea, and should be added to a lot of games with really good bosses. Like the Kirby games have that, and Castlevania games have it as a side mode. Although Kirby actually does hide a bunch of lore, but Kirby games are pretty easy overall, so... and not even the arena is that big of a step up. This game, on the other hand, I mean, we got every boss in the game back to back for 40 minutes, and it all ends in absolute radiance. One of the hardest boss in the game, in my opinion. It's an insane challenge, and locking some lore behind it, especially locking even more behind filling out every binding slot, which I am unfortunately unable to do for this playthrough anyway, is a little dumb. I will agree with people there. The way I would have done it is, I would have had the 5th Pantheon be only the harder bosses, like only the upgraded bosses. Only Lost Kin, Soul Tyrant, Failed Champion, White Defender, Nightmare King Grim, those bosses, all ending with absolute radiance. And I would have thrown away bosses like Umu or even the Warrior Dreams, to be honest, because they're not that hard, and Markoth is hard, but he's just stupid hard, not good hard, not actually challenging hard. And then I would have had a 6th bonus Pantheon that is actually every single boss in the game, including the original versions. But you don't get anything for beating it, and it's just there for fun if you want to do it. Because this Pantheon is fortunately very optional. It does not count towards 112%. I did not get any extra completion points for it. It is completely optional, but it does have lore, and it does have an ending and an achievement locked behind it. So you'll at least have to do that if you want the achievements. I would have made the bonus 6th Pantheon mega optional. It doesn't give you anything, not even any tidbit of lore at all for beating it. Overall though, I did enjoy it for what it's worth. I did enjoy going through it, at least for the nail binding. I may not have enjoyed the charms binding very much, which is why I stopped going for it. But the nail binding was fun, and I'm glad I did that. And if I'm honest, I don't really find the Godhome lore as interesting as the Hallownest lore, so I don't think you're missing out on that much by not doing this. So in the end, I can't recommend Pantheon of Hallownest to everybody, but if you really, really like the bosses in this game and you want to give it a shot, go ahead. Absolute Radiance is freaking hard, but otherwise, it's less difficult than you think, I'd say. Because I beat it with the nail binding on my first try. Of course, Shell and Soul is going to be much harder, but I'll worry about that later. For now, to continue our little intermission, I'm going to go over some bits and bobs in Godhome that I missed. This right here is a bench. I kept going down to the lower level of Godhome to switch out my charms or to rest at a bench, but there's a bench right here off to the side. I'm very glad that I noticed it. This is also a switch. If you flick it, you launch a platform that goes down here, and it's a shortcut back up. Just so you know, I actually had a little bit of recording that I forgot to hit record on, so I actually went over this stuff already. Such as the fact that this water down here is actually a hot spring. I was going over here to explore, and I was like crystal hearting across to see if there was anything secret that I missed, and as it turns out, I did miss something. This is a hot spring. It will refill your soul if you stay inside of it. Pretty cool. In Hall of Gods, you may notice that on this board, I have beaten every single boss in Hall of Gods and at least attuned. I went back and did the bosses that I don't really care for, like Gru's Mother or Vengefly King, which I think Gru's Mother, it might be the pronunciation, it sounds better to me. Beating every single boss on at least a tune will open this door. I already had the door opening animation play out off camera. And inside is a rendering glitch, but is also a statue of us. And the plaque says, not bug, nor beast, nor god. For inspecting that plaque, you unlock a journal entry. Void Idol, rare artifact from a time before Hallownest, contains a drop of liquid from the abyss. Inspired or mad, those ancient bugs. They devoted their worship to no lord or power or strength, but to the very darkness itself, Lem. Believe that's referring to the Void, and I learned a little more about the vessels in the Void. Basically, the Pale King discovered the Void, and the Void just exists down deep in Hallownest, and he used it to create vessels. That's pretty much it. That's just the reward for beating everything on Attuned. If you beat every boss on Ascended, the statue changes into this. That is the form that the Knight took when beating up Radiance at the end of the base game. If you are insane enough to beat every single boss on Radiant, meaning complete a successful no damage run of their Ascended versions, the statue will change into this. Beating every boss on Radiant is one of those things that I wasn't going to do in this playthrough, but I wanted to show you what the rewards were, because going after this is an insanely difficult combat challenge, and if possible, I'd rather I just show you what the rewards for it are, especially when it's not too spoilery like that. The real spoilery stuff I've already shown. I've shown what it's like to defeat Radiance in the base game, so yeah. That's all with Hall of Gods. Now for a couple more things. First of all, in this room over here, if we look down underneath the bridge, there is a face down there. A face of a large bug with many eyes, glowing blue. If we change our view back up, we can see briefly that it has much bigger eyes right there. And it's blinking. It's just chilling down there, and you would never see it without looking down. I do not know what that thing is. I've heard it referred to as the lifeblood monster, but I don't know if it's the source of lifeblood or what it has to do with anything. I don't know if it's there at the entire time or if it only appears after you dream nail the thing in here. I also just noticed there's a very subtle shape in the background with like 4 little circles. That's cool. But yeah, it's just there. Chilling. I'm gonna go. Or it eats me. Last, and sort of least, is a question that I've had in my head for a long time, and unfortunately didn't get to capture my first reaction to the answer because I didn't record. What happens if you fall? You get sent back out into Hallownest, right in front of the Godseeker. So it is not possible to die in the hub area of Godhome, only in the Pantheons or Hall of Gods. And none of them count as a real death, so as long as you're in Godhome, your fragile charms are safe. These ones. I could have just gone left to the charms menu, but I didn't. The Godseeker does not have any new dialogue for being Pantheon of Hallownest, by the way, because, you know, she exploded after we did it, so that'd be weird if she did. I might have been lying when I said, unintentionally lying when I said goodbye Hallownest earlier this video, because I've got a couple more things I want to do here. First of all, I actually went and completed the, journal entry for Fluke Mungas, because I only needed 2. When predators are too successful, the surplus food they eat becomes soft bulk wrapped around their bodies. Still, these creatures at least seem to make good use of their additional weight. Yeah, apparently the Fluke Mungas just don't count at all towards either encountering or the completing tally. I guess because they're Godhome exclusive enemies and Team Cherry thought that they were annoying, and they're right, they are. Sorry, I meant Godmaster if I said Godhome. They're not Godhome exclusive because they're not in Godhome. I just beat White Defender's 5th form. Because there's actually a little more than I knew of, and I decided to come back and check it out. I actually never died to him, fun fact. Mostly because of my charms, though. How funny that I see you in my dreams too, little one. Your noble bearing reminds me of our dear king. When he returns, I'll ask him if he could become a knight. What jolly adventures we will have. It's not just that dialogue. He's awake. And you can talk to him. And he has some words, final words. You're awake and looking well rested. I was startled when I woke to find you curled up beside me, but of course you're welcome to rest here whenever the world wearies you. As the king granted his kingdom to shelter those who needed it, I offer my home. Stay as long as you like down here where it's cozy and warm and moist. My cave may seem a far cry from the finery of the palace, but even still the memories of my former comrades and our glorious king remain fresh in my mind. The Pale Court was a wondrous place full of the age's greatest heroes. Ah, looking at you now, I can easily imagine you standing amongst them. Where will the line of Hallownest's great knights end? With me? Can such a thing be passed on? That's all he says. That's unfortunate. Is there any more Dreamnail dialogue? Sometimes, some NPCs actually do have Dreamnail dialogue. The Dreamers, for example, you could actually Dreamnail them, and they would have dialogue, and they would change it every time. Yeah, it's unfortunate. I think you don't react at all to Isma's Tear. Alright. Anyway, if we go out and come back in... He is gone. But he left behind a little statue of you. Aside from the fact that the statue is made of poop, I very much appreciate the gesture. Yeah, I think that was pretty worth it. It didn't give me that much lore about the Great Knights as much as I was expecting, but I think that's with, like, other lines of dialogue that you have to trigger somehow. I don't know. Maybe you have to talk to him when he's up there in the main arena, and I'm pretty sure the trigger for him coming down here is defeating the third and final Dreamer. So if you want to talk to him up there, don't kill the third Dreamer until you're ready to. You Dreamnail? Nope. So yeah, just a little thing I decided to come back and do because he talks to you. And that just further cements him as one of my favorite characters in this game. During the Hollow Knight's regular death animation, at one particular, at the frame where he explodes. Sure. The Hollow Knight ending. Looks an awful lot like the Radiance, doesn't it? For defeating Radiance in Hall of Gods, the usual scene where you get to beat the crap out of her doesn't play. Instead, the Godseeker has some words for you. Whoa! Now spec! To achieve victory, even if only against mere imprint of that most brilliant deity. Thine battles prove strength enough to impress. But couldst thou ever hope to overcome that mighty god tuned at the core of dream and mind when men in perfect state at peak of all others? We think not. So to access the second ending of Pantheon of Hallownest, you must give a gift to the Godseeker. Does not seem to have a reaction to it, but here you are. An offering? Yes, the crawler makes an offering to us. Rare bloom, tiny and pure. No god, though. No godliness. But still, what does crawler ask for in return? To touch our thick gleaming hide? To see? See the exquisite face beneath our mask? Such strange prayers. No, no! Crawler presumes too much. The gift is ours, kept by us. But our mysteries will be preserved. Oh, will they now? Yes, they will, because I'm not interested. Alright, say anything different? Gods, many shapes, they assume. This bloom, then? A splinter? Cast off? Refuse of something greater? No. No tune. If it sings, we cannot hear it. You can bring a flower to the White Lady in Queen's Gardens, and if you do, she says that the petals have some kind of power of sorts. I don't really know how that fits in with the world, but hey, it's a thing. And that may or may not be slightly important for the ending we're about to get. Now, I must tell you, when I first saw the ending requirements for give a delicate flower to the Godseeker, I got scared because I thought it was the Godseeker, it meant the Godseeker in Godhome. Thankfully, no. It's this Godseeker in the junk pit. I thought you had to carry it all the way here and then go through a Pantheon without taking damage. until you got to the room with the Godseeker. If that were the case, the most efficient would actually be Pantheon of Hallownest, since she's, like, 5 rooms in. By the way, the Godseeker in Godhome has such a cool voice. Out here, she's kind of raspy and sound like she's 90 years old or something, but yeah. For our final little tidbit, every time you enter Godhome, there is a 2% chance that you will be sent somewhere else. Briefly. You eventually just get kicked back out to Godhome like normal. But you get a little view of something that you weren't supposed to see. I'll leave that up to you all because it's not a combat challenge. For now, I must begin work on my ultimate challenge. The Shell and Soul Binding of Pantheon of Hallownest. See you in a bit. No way.
Brave sorrow.
Markoth, more like fuck off. Jesus! Thank God I bounced there. Thank God, honestly. Shit! Oh my God, that's the worst place for one to appear. Jesus. Oh my. Should've waited. Okay, I can heal. Because we're all good. Mostly. We are coming out of that with no soul, though. Why can I not dream nail you? This makes no sense. No! Are you The one thing I was hoping that wouldn't happen. God. Nope. Why? Heal, 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 heal. 87 million close calls all at once. Do I have any more? I'm totally gonna die here, god damn it. Oh my god, I was so close the first try, dude. Not even gonna risk that. Thank god. It's a miracle that I'm here. I knew you'd do that. You asshole. Good one, sir. I'm gonna try. I'm too scared of the triple slash. All my lifeblood is gone. I was saving up for Radiance, and I'm playing worse. I can tell I'm playing worse. No! Oh my god. Be nice. Attempt 2. I have no lifeblood. This is gonna go like shit. I can see it. Good start. Oh, fuck off. Where are you going? I'm scared. I'm fucking scared. I don't want her to use a crazy powerful attack on me. Fuck. Yes! As the legendary Ottstarva once said, put that crown down! It's ours now. It's done. It's done. So yeah, basically just a variant of the same ending. You don't even get an achievement for it. You just get Embrace the Void for the first one. I got that one before. So, lesson learned. Flowers are the ultimate life form and will rule over us all. I wish I had a heart rate monitor. Absolute Radiance is a great boss. It is, like, brutally difficult, but fair, as long as you do the right strategies and have the right movements at the right time. Those were two surprisingly lucky runs, and I pulled it off on the second try. That was my second try. Holy crap. Alright, Charms Binding is not filled in. Who cares? I'm not going for that yet. I'll do that off camera, but for the playthrough, we're done. Oh my god. It's still settling in. I almost, like, can't believe it right now. It's still just settling in. Jesus. You know, Absolute Radiance is a fantastic boss, and I have a lot of fun fighting her, which is great. I would hope that the hardest boss of the game isn't also the worst boss in the game. But, like, I could see how she could feel almost unfair, and she is so fucking crazy. I don't even know if I want to fight her in another playthrough. Or Pantheon of Hallownest, even. If I do it again, I'll do it without bindings, or I'll do it with the Charms binding, and I'll come back and actually get that done, but for now, that's it. I am so glad I did it, though, because that was amazing. That felt so freaking good. I have been fighting this boss for the past few days, and every single time, it's just the most stressful thing. So to have it finally past me feels great. If only I hadn't read this congratulations message last time, it would be too repetitive. Oh, fuck it. Congratulations, well done on achieving this great feat. You persevered and you triumphed. We hope you enjoyed yourself in the world of Hollow Knight. I definitely did. We'll meet again soon on the road ahead. I know you didn't say thank you for playing, but I just want to say thank you, Team Cherry, for making this game. You are a talented bunch, and Silksong is going to be great, even if I don't necessarily want to play it right off the bat. Final completion time is 85 hours, 34 minutes, 44 seconds. I didn't go over 100 on my playthrough, at least. Let me check Steam. Well, when I started playing this session, I was at 92 hours on Steam, and I've been recording for 2 hours, so that means I have 94 hours. I beat Pantheon of Hallownest in under 100 hours. I feel like I should get an achievement for that. A special achievement only some people can get. I set the menu style to the Godmaster version, just thinking it would fit for this moment, and yes, it freaking does. All but one. So yeah, I didn't fill out every binding slot. But I think the way that I did it with the shell and soul bindings, even with using high blood all throughout it, I don't think I ever took more than 2 hits on Radiance back-to-back, so I think I actually would have been able to do it without Unbreakable Heart. So technically I did it without Unbreakable Heart. You're welcome. Whatever. I think the way I did it was still a massive challenge, and more importantly, it was a lot more fun. So, if you can manage to fill out every single binding slot on every Pantheon, including Pantheon of Hallownest, this wall will open up a crack, and there will be a bright light shining out of it, and you can go inside. And there's a special area for you. Here's where I would normally say, I'll leave that up to you, but to be honest, I recommend playing the Pantheons without bindings, and I even recommend freaking using this. Like, this video was sponsored by Fragile Strength, pretty much. I used it throughout all my runs, and it made that so much better, because, like, even with this charm, and without the nail binding, run was still, like, an hour. I think filling out every binding slot counts as absurd combat challenge, and I don't think that many of you even want to try it. So, we're just gonna head over to the internet and see what it looks like together. Alright, here's a video called Hollow Knight Godmaster's Secret Location Land of Storms, made by I Spilled My Coffee on Keyboard. Great username. All credit goes to them, because they had the patience to actually fill out every single binding slot, whereas I did not. But, here we go. Let's see what this looks like. Like how you still hadn't opened that shortcut. Land of Storms. It's like the opposite of Godhome, whereas Godhome was like bright and gold, this is dark and gray. And it's stormy instead of like sunny. Godseeker mask. Multiple. Are the people of Godhome just called the Godseekers? That makes sense. Oh, there's a pile of them. And 2 big bugs in the background. And that gives you a special journal entry. The big bugs in the background kind of looked like the Godseeker in Hallownest. Gonna see the journal entry? Yes. You're gonna scroll all the way down to the bottom. Here it is. Weathered Mask. Strange mask from a godless land passed down over time. The design suggests the wearer's thoughts were focused through the crest. Gods of thunder, gods of rain, why forsake thy servants? Will our minds be left suffering to ache alone? What god remains to deliver us from this woeful silence? Lament of the Godseekers. So the reward for every binding is a little more lore behind Godhome itself. I gotta be honest, in my opinion, it's not quite as interesting as the lore of Hallownest, at least to me. Like, I think of this place as, like, the Godseeker's dreams, where you get to go inside and then challenge all these bosses because she's attuned them, or whatever that means. But then they started to do all this and try to intertwine it with Hallownest a little too much. But, I mean, then again, how would Godseeker even get to Hallownest? Yeah, it's just, I think it's too confusing for me to figure it out. Basically, just me saying I'm dumb. Also, I can control the pause menu, even though the Hollow Knight is not the primary window. I think that's funny. Thanks again to I Spilled My Coffee on Keyboard for this video, and I could buy you a keyboard as thanks if you want. What do you mean updated? I already saw it. Alright. Back here in my game, I am missing the Weathered Mask. It is considered one of the, like, tokens of accomplishment that you get for filling out the Hunter's Journal, completing Path of Pain, and completing every boss in the Hall of Gods on at least Attuned, respectively. So it does not even count as, like, a secret entry. It does not increase either of the 2 numbers down in the corner, encountered or completed, or their total, or the whatever. Whereas the secret entries like Radiance do, or Pure Vessel, or any DLC boss. My count right now, my total entry count is 161. The highest it can go is 164. I am missing 3 secret entries, and those are the Secret Bug and Forgotten Crossroads, that I didn't bother to go after. I left it up to you guys. The Grimkin Nightmares and Nightmare King Grim, because I banished the troop on this playthrough before I got to kill them. So other than that, I have every single journal entry in the game. That's everything. Every area, every boss, every ability, every challenge, every upgrade, every side quest, most lines of NPC dialogue, most journal entries, because of the few secret ones, most bindings cleared, but none of that matters that much to me. That is good enough for me. That was Hollow Knight. I have officially 100% completed Hollow Knight for the first time. And now, a moment of reflection. To start this final thoughts section, I'm gonna go over what I think about Godhome, because we're here right now, but it's so separate and completely different from the rest of the game that I thought it deserved its own spotlight, and I think overall it is great. I know not many people were that thrilled by it because it doesn't have that much exploration. It's all just a bunch of combat challenges that they might not be equipped to do, but I thought it was great fun as someone who deeply enjoys the bosses in this game. Like, they're some of my favorite bosses ever, if not my favorite bosses ever in any game I've played. My favorite part by far is Hall of Gods. Like, any game ever that has bosses this good and this numerous should give you the option to refight them whenever you want. Looking at you, Soulsborne. And this game does it so simply. Just, here's all the bosses. Pick which one. Pick your difficulty. And the fact that they also have, like, the upgraded versions in the same little thing where you either use a lever to switch them out or you dream nail them to get their stronger or weaker version is very creative, and I really like that. And the fact that you have, like, all these rewards and little emblems to mark your accomplishments for fighting the bosses on these hard difficulties, and the fact that you can choose to fight them on a no damage mode where you just automatically die if you take a hit, that's also great. If I had any criticisms about it, it would be this. If you're in a fight, I kinda wish that you could leave the fight at any time through the pause menu, or you could quickly restart it, because I find that often when I was practicing, I would get a run, have a run that just went really bad, and I just wanted to restart it and get it out of the way, but no, you either have to die or kill the boss, and it's just kind of annoying. It's a mild complaint, but a complaint nonetheless, and I kind of wish, like... Also, if you died, I kind of wish that there was an option to just restart the fight right there instead of being kicked back out and having to go back in. That's just a little annoying. Otherwise, though, Hall of Gods is excellent and is easily my favorite part of Godhome. As for the Pantheons, I think they're great as well. At least these first four are. Because... you know how the Kirby games all have the arena where you refight every single boss, and those bosses are really fun, so why not test yourself on boss rushing a lot of them? Maybe there's a little too many of them, and maybe they're a little too hard, but I don't know. My only gripes about the Pantheon would be another kind of minor one. Having to play through the Pantheon at least once to unlock the final boss in Hall of Gods to practice it, because they are completely new bosses and they are difficult enough that no one's really going to beat them on their first try. So every player just kind of has to go through twice by default, unless they bring the most broken things, but aside from that. However, there is a slight good thing amongst all that. Once you beat these first three, you unlock Godseeker mode, and in Godseeker mode, every single boss except Radiance is unlocked in Hall of Gods. So that means you can actually practice Pure Vessel without actually having to go through the Pantheon first to unlock him. Which is good, but I still wish the others could be like that. And also, the bindings are a very neat idea. I think that the wrong combinations of them can make some bosses brutal, while it only mildly increases the difficulty of other bosses. I think my favorite bindings are probably Shell and Soul, because, like, having to deal with such limited health, it really tests you on not taking any damage, especially if you bring Hive Blood, where that's the only way you survive. And Soul, limiting you to one use of anything, is great. Charms, I think, limits your playstyle a little too much, although, like, fighting these bosses without charms is a good thing to do so that you don't rely on them too heavily. I still think that for some bosses like Collector or Markoth, having this on just makes them kind of annoying. I mean, Collector less so, but Markoth abso-freaking-lutely, especially Ascended Markoth. The nail binding just makes bosses last longer. I guess that's cool, but otherwise it's just kind of boring. And it doesn't make the game that much better, and in some cases, like with the Collector, even his attuned form is a nightmare. Pantheon of Hallownest definitely isn't everyone's cup of tea, and I wouldn't recommend it to everybody who plays this game. Like, if you enjoy the bosses, I say come in to Godhome and try the first 4. But this, you could probably skip it unless you really want to do it. I do love the idea, though, and I did enjoy playing it, because there's a certain pressure in, like, having all these difficult bosses back-to-back. Grey Prince Zod into Failed Champion into Nightmare King Grimm into Pure Vessel into freaking Absolute Radiance, which contains, like, half the difficulty of this thing. There's a very, like, intense pressure in that can make it really fun, but I do think that it might be a little too long and that you could cut out some of these bosses, and locking endings and lore behind it is a little... Then again, I don't find the lore of Godhome that interesting, so it won't affect me that much, but for those who are interested in it, it kind of sucks for them. Which is why I say, don't use bindings, run Fragile Strength. I'm not on the Charms menu, but yeah, run Fragile Strength, don't use bindings. Other than that, though, I did enjoy Pantheon of Hallownest for what it was worth, and to be honest, like, I beat the nail binding run first try, and I beat the Shell and Soul second try. So, I can't complain that much. Besides, I think fighting every single boss in this way is a great way to end this series, even if it was a little annoying and a little draining. Like, if I had failed that second attempt, I would have been done for the day, but I'm actually done. Now, as much as I enjoyed Godhome, I will say that when I started this in episode 23, I had slightly less drive to keep playing this game and for YouTube, to keep recording it. Because, see, I think the best thing about this game is the exploration. And this place, aside from the hub world, has basically none of that. And that's okay. It's all about bosses, and that's fine. I think there should be like a separate area for entirely boss challenges. And the rest of the world is the exploration mixed with the bosses. But there is kind of a big difference between early on in the series where I was like, oh yeah, I get to record Hollow Knight today and go down that weird path and see if there's a new area there, or a bunch of secrets, or like a cool character, or cool lore, maybe an awesome boss that'll take me a million tries to beat and I'll feel great for doing it, and versus, yay, I get to play some Godhome and die to the Collector 12 times and make no progress. Can't wait. I think you can see an obvious difference there. I think the fact that I was doing this for YouTube made me a little less willing to play it. Because, like, you know, I felt obligated to beat every Pantheon. When I come back and play the game on my own, I'm sure that I'll do this as, like, a side thing if I want to. If I feel like playing a Pantheon, I'll hop in and do it. Or for a 112% run, I'll hop in and do it. Even if I decide that I want to try Absolute Radiance again, I'll hop in and do it. So yeah, that's Godhome. Not a place for everybody, but I certainly enjoyed it very, very much, and I'm very glad that I did it. Especially Pantheon of Hallownest. On my first playthrough. But how about the rest of the game? Well, I'm going to go find a good spot for us to sit, and we can talk about it. Hollow Knight is one of the best games I have ever played. Easily in my top 10 of all time. And I don't even know where to start in praising it. The amazing controls, the huge world with so many cool things to see, the, dare I say, perfection of the Metroidvania formula. I don't even know. Metroidvanias have become one of my favorite video game genres over time because they take the element of exploration from a typical open world game or other adventure games and add a lot of mystery to it. Because you find a path that you can't go down without an ability and you're wondering what's there once you get it. And in this game's case, what was there was never boring, even if it was just a minor relic to sell to Relic Seeker Lem for some money. Whatever, it's more money, it's great. Or it could be a boss, or it could be a charm. And something very cool is that almost nothing was repeated, aside from regular enemies. Obviously, like the base Wandering Husks were in almost every area in the game, but even that had some twists, like in Deep Nest, where they'd come back to life with those special spider enemies. Next to no content was repeated unless you count the sequel bosses that are just tougher versions of regular bosses, which I guess you can. And you count Godhome, basically using every single boss from the base game. Everything to explore was always unique and always worth it. At the moment, I can't even think of any other game that had this many cool things to find, because there were so many just cool encounters, straight up. Finding Stone Sanctuary, not being able to see it, and wondering what the hell it was and what it was used for. Stumbling into resting grounds, and being worried that this was like a big important boss area. And while it's an important area, it's actually very peaceful and only has one boss in it. Going deep into Deep Nest and finding the Beast's Den and having all those weird guys in the first room that tell you to rest, and then you just get captured and brought into Beast's Den. The Abyss, seeing all the corpses of the vessels down in the Abyss. Coming across Ancient Basin for the first time and wondering what the deal of this place was, and not even knowing that the place went this deep. Taking the tram beyond Ancient Basin to Kingdom's Edge and just finding a brand new freaking area. And then eventually discovering the Hive right beneath it, there the whole time, behind some secret wall. Discovering the Grim Troop, which I'm very lucky to have discovered, honestly. I discovered them purely by chance. And then right above them is the hidden pocket with all the lifeblood butterflies that fly by that leads you to the special charm. The Grim Troop's quest as a whole and how mysterious it is. And of course the fact that it ends with Nightmare King Grim, an excellent, excellent boss. Then there's the combat and bosses. I've already been over how much I loved them, but to put it simply, the combat in this game is awesome, and the bosses are some of my favorites that I've ever fought in any game. Each one of them just has this excellent flow to combat, especially some like Grim or the Mantis Lords or Sisters of Battle, or even Radiance to an extent. And of course, there's also the fun of meeting an insanely difficult challenge and working through to overcome it using pure skill, no numbers. You hear that, Collector? Anyway. There are some stinkers in the boss list, of course. I'm not a fan of every boss, but it has a lot more good than bad, at least in my opinion. And all of the really, really hard bosses are optional, so that leaves a little bit of accessibility for those who just want to see a basic ending where you just kill the Hollow Knight and that's it. Either Watcher Knights or the Hollow Knight is probably the hardest it's gonna get for you. And for those who want to go the extra mile and fight Radiance, that's an option. For those who want to go the extra mile and fight in Godhome, that's an option. The story was also pretty good, although vague stories like this and in FromSoft games don't really engage me that much because it's just vague and I'm not that smart, so I probably wouldn't understand it. I still think that the world itself was so interesting to go through that it made me interested in the story, and such as the Hollow Knight stabbing himself in that second phase. That made me really interested in like what happened to him, why is he doing that? And I found out why, and it all makes sense. I still don't understand everything, but I don't really need to. The world alone was so engaging and so interesting to explore that I don't even care if I don't understand everything. Hallownest was a beautiful world either way. And I could go on, but I'd probably just end up repeating myself. So instead, that's pretty much all I have to say. I recommend this game to everyone who happens to watch any video in this series. I knew from right off the bat that I would recommend it to everyone, and that has not changed one bit. If you like 2D platformers and Metroidvanias, or challenging games, and or any of those, play this. I'm done now. That was Hollow Knight. Excellent game. Very glad that I played it. Thank you all so much for watching this series, if you did watch. And as always, I will see you all in the future.